Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us tonight on episode 8, season 4 of The Standoff with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. We're here live every Wednesday on Facebook throughout the season. Evening, Richie. What a weekend of footy. One of the greatest comebacks I've ever seen. First of all, how was your weekend? And secondly, what did you think of the round?
Hey, evening, Brad. Before I talk about my weekend, mate, we're second place. Second place, mate. And not after one round. This is 5 rounds in. How good does that sound? So off the back of that, my weekend was good. The game on Sunday was just like the icing on the cake, but the best icing in the world.
Definitely. And I see Hammer and Mikey are here. Evening, gents. And while we're here live on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m, you can also catch us your convenience on iHeartRadio, Spotify, all those places. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. As always, we're going to cover everything you need to know in the week that was rugby league, including our top stories of the week, a review of round 5, and an update on our tips. We'll then answer some questions from you guys as well as some questions we've got for each other before previewing round 6 and making our tips. And then ending the night with Jacko's favourite segment, the Super League. So remember to send us comments and questions throughout the show. And we may as well just jump straight into the top stories of the week, Richie.
Yeah, sounds good to me, buddy.
There's quite a bit, unfortunately, a bit of a newsworthy week. I weeded a few out, but first one I thought was quite interesting was the Bulldogs were seeking exemption to use players outside of their top 30 this week after not being able to pick 21 fit players from the top 30. Last I checked, there wasn't any word if that had been approved or not. But what do you take? Do you think they'll get approved? The Knights kind of didn't get permission when they had their injuries and stuff. So I'm not sure if the Bulldogs will get the same privilege. But what's your take? It's a big loss for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? We've had a few clubs and similar sort of injury strife this year, but the Bulldogs have got quite a few. I think they've been scrapping pretty well in spite of that. So we'll see if the NRL comes to the party or not. But they're walking wounded, that's for sure.
Yeah, and as you said, there's a lot of clubs doing it tough like that at the moment. So we'll keep our ears to the ground and see what happens. I know we did talk about it not last week, the week before, about and Jacko said he thinks the Dogs have got approval. So that's good for them to help them out. It's not like they're the Roosters and they're getting expectation and they're bringing like Sonny Bill into the mix or anything like that. You know, it's they're reserve grade players that hadn't been upgraded yet. So it's good cover, but it's not ideal. Hammer said he can remember in 2021 when we could only name a squad of 20 one week. Teams do it tough. It's what makes you stronger as a unit. So it will only make the Bulldogs mentally tougher, you would imagine. Next bit of news, we'll go into some internationals. Michael Maguire has retained his Kiwis coaching role through to the 2025 World Cup. And Ricky Henry's also kept his coaching role for the Kiwi Ferns for the same time. What's your take on that? When I saw the news yesterday, it wasn't officially announced, but then New Zealand Rugby League announced it today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. I don't know what other coaches in the international coaching landscape there are that we could replace them with, and kind of like what Paul's saying in there in the comments, it might only be 3 or 4 tests before the next World Cup.
Yeah, well, we still haven't heard how we discussed the 4 nations last week. We haven't heard any more on that yet. So, but yeah, I'm happy with both. I think, Michael Maguire, they didn't go all the way in the World Cup, but it's not like they embarrassed themselves like they did at the previous one.
Yeah.
So I think they did themselves pretty proud against a tough Australian team that I didn't give the time of day before the World Cup started. So still eating my humble pie on that. But that won't be the first time I have to do that tonight. So, great news for both of those coaches, and hopefully it brings some success to the Kiwis. Moving on, Jared Waerea-Hargreaves is keen to play on next year, Richie. But he's been advised by the Roosters that they've used his money on Spencer Leniu. So if he wants a new club to continue, he might need to go to another club. Personally, I believe the Roosters will magically find money to keep him. But what's your take? And do you expect him to go to another club, or if there's no chance at the Roosters, he just hangs up the boots?
Yeah, it depends on, like you say, whether or not they, like you said, and like Mark's just said, they'll probably find the money somewhere. Yeah, I don't know. Would you chuck a bit of coin at him as a bit of an enforcer, Brad? Put your Warriors cap on.
I wouldn't say no. I just don't see him doing like 1 year and coming to New Zealand. I think
it's
he
just
would.
Just a bit of fantasy talk.
Hypothetically, he, like Ciala said, he's too old for if you could get him on next to nothing. For next to nothing, it wouldn't be bad. I wouldn't say no, but I wouldn't see it happening.
You look pretty young there, Ciala. Don't do yourself dirty like that, mate.
But yeah, we'll get to see what happens. It could just be the early round high that a lot of the players get. When it gets to the back end, he might be thinking a different story. Talking of where we got the Raiders, I got this one. It's really just for Simon, but Ricky Stewart's rumored to be planning a mass clean out of his roster in a bid to get Canberra back on track. Jared Croker and Jordan Rapana are off contract at the end of the year and won't be kept. Jack Whiten also, as we said last week, he might be leaving. A clean out may be good, Richie, but where are they going to get other players?
Yeah, that's a good question. And watching, I don't know if you saw NRL 360 this week, Brad, but Buzz, he doesn't often bring up good points, but he did bring up a good one. The Raiders are kind of similar to the Warriors, where their recruitment's a little bit hamstrung by their geographical area.
Location.
Yeah, it's not really as desirable as, say, Queensland or Sydney. So they struggle a bit in that regard. But he did make mention of their SG Ball team as well, as like sitting top of the ladder and sitting pretty, but they're probably 3 or 4 years away from bringing any of those players through. So the way they're traveling, maybe they do need to clean out, but it remains to be seen how good they would be able to recruit.
I think they got some talented players in there. I think it's just a few people just getting rid of a bit like what the Warriors have done, where, like Andrew Webster said, they basically got rid of a lot of players that didn't really want to be there. There might be a few players with that kind of mentality at the Raiders that if you just pluck them out, things change. Like Hammer's put, Whiten's given his reason for looking elsewhere is because he wants to win a premiership. So he'll probably sign with the Tigers. You watch. But yeah, it's there just needs to be a change in that attitude that Whiten's displaying there. If that, that's what he's thinking. That's the kind of mentality you kind of want out. You want guys that are like, no, bugger it. We can win a premiership here, type thing. So no, go away, Hammer. Dragons never win in a premiership. But that's actually a good segue because my next topic is about the Dragons. Blake Lowry, or Lowry, I don't know how you say his name. He said in an interview this week that the Dragons are improving and are aiming for a top 4 finish. Lofty goals. Richie, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that, mate. I mean, obviously, you as a player, NRL player, you can't really go out and write your club off. I mean,
well, you can if you're the Tigers.
You can. You got to set yourself lofty goals. I know we had Api Coruscant last year making a bit of light of his signing at the Tigers, and bit of controversy around the jokes he's making about that. But generally, you back your club that you're with to perform. But yeah, top 4 might be a little bit optimistic. Battling for the 8 probably at best.
I think 8's optimistic as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean at best. But who knows? They were in the running in previous years up until things like Barbecue Gate, which sort of derailed them. But they're a battling side. They don't have the best looking squad, but they battle hard. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Time will tell.
I think they're a bit better than what you give them credit for, Brad. Tipping them for the spring every year.
They're definitely probably second to last. I think if the Tigers weren't there, I think they'd be in trouble. But yeah, and Warriors, we had some news today. They rested 12 players from their training session today after a draining first 5 rounds, which has included 30 hours of flying. I did have the whole quote from Andrew Webster, but I knew we'd be pushing a long show, so I didn't want to sit here and do a monologue. But he basically said they were thinking that there was going to be a time coming up where they wanted to give everyone a bit of a rest just to recover after all the stuff, and today was the day, especially after that epic game against the Sharks. Nothing bad. It sounded really good. No worries of injuries or anything like that. But what's your take on the players getting a rest?
It sounds like it would do them good. And after the start we've had to the year, who am I to argue with any call that Webby makes? It's not like we've had it comfy like the Broncos. 4 games out of 5 at Suncorp at their home ground. Us being from Mount Smart, we tend to travel every second week, and we've only had the 1 game at Mount Smart. So let them freshen up. We've done brilliant, and whatever's going to keep that momentum running, then let's do it.
Yeah, definitely. And next bit of news, I was umming and ahhing if I was going to bring it up because I feel like they're getting enough crap at the moment, but may as well. Why not kick them while they're down, Richie? Tigers. They announced their Anzac Day jersey, and people noticed that they use stock image. They use a stock image of American soldiers in a helicopter that you can find on Google. I found it today very easily myself. Since this was noticed, I don't know who had the time or life to Google image search footage on jerseys, but the Tigers have come out, and I've got this quote. I wanted to keep this quote because of what it is. But they've said the commemorative jersey to be worn by our players for this match has been criticised because an image of the jersey does not accurately depict Australian or New Zealand troops, the Tigers said. As a club, West Tigers is deeply sorry if the use of this image has been in any way offensive. It was never our intention, and we are taking steps to rectify this. We've taken on board feedback from our members and fans, and we'll be redesigning our 2023 commemorative jersey immediately. So what do you think about this and all the other dramas surrounding the Tigers? I saw Hammer put in there that the Tigers are a basket case.
Yeah, it was a picture of it looks like a Call of Duty cover of a Call of Duty video game, eh? I don't know. It's not just that too. Like Mark says, it's a bit of a basket case. We had Tim Sheens making jokes at the press conference about hopefully we beat the bye after their last loss. I think we were all talking earlier, and just the organisation just seems tone deaf. You'd hate to be one of their fans, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, it's and Jacko said Pasco's way out of his depth. Pasco's kind of in is just as much strife as well, and we said it years ago on the show, Richie, that the players. I think I did watch 360, and I think they must watch the show because I think they stole my monologue directly, saying like the players aren't the problem at the Tigers. It's above that. It's it's basically it's rotting from management. And it leaks down to everyone else. They've got some great players, there that turn up and they're rubbish. Papali'i is now the Papali'i that was at the Warriors after being, one of the best players in the NRL for the last few years for the Eels.
Coruscant looks different. He's not the Coruscant that was at the Panthers. It's crazy.
Yeah, and like Paul said, culture's top-down driven. Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem, and I don't think there's a light at the end of the tunnel until they need to do a sticky and do a clean out of the offices really. But Jacko said Tigers players don't look like they believe in whatever Sheens is doing. Yeah, I think Sheens is too far gone. But I've also said a few seasons ago that I thought Wayne Bennett was in that same category, and look at him go. But yeah, I think Sheens has just been out of the game for too long. And then, they've got this year and next year with him, and then they're throwing it to Benji, who's never coached a game in his life. And I love the guy, but that's still not a situation you really want to be in as a club. So I don't know. I'm sure we're going to be talking about them a lot every week, and I don't like doing it to them because I really want to see them succeed. I just don't see it happening anytime soon.
And what Mark said there too, Clemmer, Coruscant, Papali'i, off Hingawe, Bateman, that's a premiership pack. They're not even picking off for Hingawe lately. He's playing New South Wales Cup. And they've got Dane Larry, their best fullback, on the bench, playing a 5'8" at fullback. It's weird.
Nofaluma, their best winger, not there either. So I don't know what's going on, but we'll leave that because I'm sure we're going to have a Tigers segment next week as well, after whatever happens in their game against the Eels. So we'll move on to signings. I've got quite a lot of signings because the NRLW started, so we've got a few of them. So we'll just kind of rattle them off. But we'll start with the men's comp. Panthers have extended Moses Leota till the end of 2027. Broncos have extended Jesse Arthur's time until the end of 2026. The Titans have announced two. They've signed former Leeds captain Cruz Lemming on a one-year deal, and they've also stolen a Tigers player in Thomas McCarley for the remainder of the season. Then Sharks have re-signed Sione Katoa for another 3 years, and Jeremy Marshall-King is staying with the Dolphins until 2025. What's your take on all of those that I just threw at you?
Yeah, most of those extensions, obviously really good for the clubs. They're great players. Moses Leota, Arthurs, Sione Katoa, and Marshall King. That's really good extensions from all their clubs, and interesting to see how these Titans ones go. Cruz Lemming and Thomas McAley from Super League, because I know Thomas McAley went to Super League from mid-season from the Tigers last year as well. So and by all accounts, is doing quite well. So
and Cruz, I haven't seen enough of Cruz to get a good opinion on him. He seems quality in Super League, but we know that doesn't always transfer. So it'd be so interesting to see. But the NRLW, there was a lot of them. Obviously, the Tigers, they're going to kind of be like the Broncos were a few years ago, where the Broncos were rubbish, but the women's team were unbeatable. The Tigers have signed Keezy Apps, Batil Vet Walsh, and Sarah Togatuki. The Cowboys announced Emma Manzelman as their inaugural signing for their first campaign. Titans went on a signing spree. They've got Talia Fuimano. I always get that name wrong. I get her brother's name wrong too. Fuimano. Emily Bass, Danny Perez, Caitlin Phillips, Shailene Bent, and Jamie Chapman. Raiders announced their first ever signings as well with Simi Taufa, Sahara Tamura, and Mona Lisa Suiola. And then the Dragons nabbed former Rooster and current Dally M winner Racine McGregor. So what's your take on all those? I was surprised that Keezy was going to the Tigers. And I kind of thought Shailene Bent was going to end up at the Titans due to her being the partner of David Fafita. So
it's kind of hard to keep tabs on with the way the signings work for NRLW currently. Hopefully it should steady out going forward. But obviously there's some good ones there for some teams, like you said, Keezy Apps, Racing McGregor. But be interesting to see how it affects the teams this year, and if there's a big sort of shake-up of who the form teams were last season.
Yeah, definitely. So that was all the signings I had. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more. I'll try to convince it down. With all the women's signings, there's going to be a lot. I'll try to cherry pick the right ones so we're not here forever, because we've got a whole lot of injuries. Mark Roberts said just called them a 6-week suspension. Pretty much. So we'll go to casualty ward. There's a stack of them, Richie. Players are just dying left, right, and center right now.
Yeah.
Bulldog Franklin Pelly is out for 2 months after having surgery on a broken arm. Announced today, Sharks Toby Rudolph is set to miss up to 3 months for a toe injury. They did give me the medical term, but I can't pronounce it. James Tedesco from the Roosters is going to miss a week due to having to sit out 11 days for a head knock. Could have come a week later. Alex Johnston from the Rabbitohs is also going to be out for 11 days with a stand down. And Tyson Gamble from the Knights is in that same category. Seagulls have lost Christian Tuipulotu for 3 weeks with a knee injury and Ben Trbojevic for 6 with a hamstring injury. And then the last lots, Cowboys, Helen Lukey and Jordan McLean will miss this week with hamstring injuries, and Anthony Milford's out with a hamstring for the Dolphins. So Tyson Gamble is probably fortuitous for the Warriors this week. But then Toby's going to be a massive loss for the Sharks. James is always going to be a loss, and Alex Johnston as well. And yeah, Mark Roberts has said Tohu's still only 50-50 for use for the Warriors this week as well. And they're still waiting on Mitch Barnett, who they said could be 3 to 4 weeks away still.
Yeah.
For his neck injury. But what's your take on all those?
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to see the concussion protocol. Like it's being, it's pretty consistent now. We've had a lot of category ones and the 11-day stand down, but yeah, there's some big ones there. Obviously, Tedesco and there's quite a few. Manly's got a few there. Helen Lukey, I feel sorry for. He's just can't catch a break. So
yeah,
wish all of them a speedy recovery.
Yeah, definitely. And then before we move into round 5, we've got Naughty Boy Corner. Only four this week. And Mikey Mitchell says here, Gould bringing in the big guns to fight concussion drama. Good luck with that. But Naughty Boys. Sharks Dale Vanuken is suspended for 3 weeks for a hip drop tackle, and Murata Nakora from the Warriors is suspended for 2 weeks for a hip drop tackle from the same game. Bailey Simonson from the Eels got 2 weeks for a grade 3 high tackle. And then Bulldog Jaden Okunbor is suspended for a week for a grade 2 dangerous contact. Honestly, I didn't think that the hip drop tackles from Finucane and Nakora were anything major. I thought Finucane's was more of a hip drop than Murata's. I don't believe Murata's was a hip drop. And I don't think either of them should have been suspended. I was surprised that they got sin-binned. And yeah, I know that's thug life, Paul, but it wasn't like I'm defending someone knocking someone's head off here. But what's your take, Richie? We know I'm heavily biased.
I agree with you completely. Those 2 hip drop charges there. I don't see any way that those were hip drops. Neokori on Talakai is just a powerful dude, and he's sort of busting through the contact. And where's Neokori supposed? Is he just meant to let him go so he doesn't fall on his legs? Yeah. He's got to try and bring him down. And the worst part about that was the fact that they played advantage for a full set and then went back 40, 50 meters to blow the penalty and sin bin him. It's a bit of a joke.
Yeah, Mark said, how did 3 different hip drops get 3 different suspension lengths?
Loading,
I
isn't it?
assume loading, but they kind of said at the start of this year that they were resetting everything. So Finucane, Nakora, and all that, I don't think they've been in trouble at all this year. So I'm not sure. But yeah, as Kaiser has said, at least they were consistent. Yeah, as soon as Finucane got done for the same thing, he had to go off. So I agreed in that aspect that he should be sin-binned because Murata was.
I just think neither of them should have been sent off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's crazy. But we may as well jump into round 5, Richie. So we got Thursday's game, Roosters defeating the Eels 28-20. You want to give me a rundown?
You bet. So like you said, 28-20 Roosters way, 5 tries to 3. Drew Hutchison Daniel Tupou, Luke Keary with a double, and Jackson Bolo with the tries for the Roosters. 3 tries for the Eels, Clint Gutherson, Bailey Simonson, Mike Acevo, 3 for 5 from Sam Walker, and 3 out of 3 for Mitchie Moses on conversions. What do you make of the game, Brad?
Yeah, so the Roosters, I've got here that I thought they did it tough without James Tedesco, but they did take advantage of the sin bins to get some points in the first half, which you want your team to do. A dangerous side, but not as good as I think they are going to be towards the back end of the season. I think they're still ironing some kinks out. If they've got everyone back on deck, they're going to be dangerous. What did you think about the Roosters?
I think they looked too slick for the Eels, particularly early. I think they butchered a couple of chances to blow the scoreline out more. And then obviously Tedesco going off hurt them a little bit, but I thought Suoli'i did quite a good job filling in for Teddy there. And I think he had his hands in a couple of tries. So good win for the Roosters.
And your thoughts on the Eels?
Too many mistakes and poor discipline cost them. They, like you already said, they had the 2 sin bins and they were punished for that. I know they've had a tough draw to start, but I can see this tough start hurting their aspirations of going one better this year.
Yeah, I've kind of got something similar. I just said they lack discipline and polish, and that cost them in this match, and they're too inconsistent to be a contender right now. And my player that stood out, I went with Sam Walker. Thought he was in there. You got to remember he's still young. He's cracked. I think that was his 50th game at his young age, which is impressive. And they were targeting him all night, and he was defensively sound, which is not something we've said about him a lot. So I think he really did something special. But who did you pick?
Yeah, I agree with you with Sam Walker, and I thought his halves partner Luke Keary as well. Couple of nice tries, but if I had to pick one, I went with Suoli'i. I thought he had a tough week. A lot in the media a lot for his contract he's just signed, and a lot of people bagging him. But I thought he's looking really dangerous, and to fill in for Teddy, who's a pretty important member of the Roosters, I think he did a really nice job.
Yeah, definitely. Next game on Friday, first game, Panthers wiping the floor with the Raiders, 53-12. It's going to take you some time, but do you want to do the rundown?
Yeah, you bet. So it was 9 tries to the Panthers. Sunia Turuva got 2. Isaac Tungle got 2. Nathan Cleary, Zach Hosking, Tyron Peachy, Stephen Crichton, and we know about the Jamin Salmon one. He got it pretty happy about that one. And 2 tries to the Raiders, Elliot Whitehead and Hudson Young. 8 for 9 from the conversions for Cleary, 2 out of 2 for Fogarty. Yeah, that's a hammering. Got ugly, didn't it, Brad? Sorry, Simon.
It did. Yeah. My notes on the Panthers here, I got it looked like the Panthers of old. I know I've been a bit critical that they haven't really been performing the way we expect them to, but it looked like it was 2022 all over again here. They kept pushing and they refused to give the Raiders a chance. Always dangerous, but they were scary potent in this match. What did you have on the Panthers?
I put that they pretty much ground the Raiders out because it was competitive at halftime. Only 13-6, I think it was at halftime. So they just kept grinding until Canberra broke, and then once they broke, which was pretty much right after halftime, it was all one way, and like we already said, got a bit ugly.
Yeah, and your Raiders comment?
I thought, pretty much the opposite of that. I thought they did a decent job to be in the game at halftime, but second half was woeful, though. They conceded 40 points in the second half and finished the game with 68% completion. So you'll never beat the Panthers like that. So
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's kind of the same. I said it was a tough night for the Raiders. They were never in the fight, in my opinion. They had 51 missed tackles and 13 errors. That makes your night very tough against anyone, let alone the reigning premiers. So a lot of work for Ricky to do there. My player that stood out was Isaac Tago. Personally, just out of pure jealousy, because I traded him out before this game in my NRL fantasy because he's done nothing for me, and then he just dominated everything, made me cry in my lounge. But yeah, he looked back dangerous like he was last year. So great to see him bounce back. But your player?
I put Zach Hosking, actually. Been really impressed with him since he's come into the team. Obviously, they lost the gun second rower edge forward from last year, Cacao, and I think they may have found an answer in Hosking. Martin will come back and he can play the other side, but yeah, Hosking looks great, runs awesome lines, seems to be striking a nice partnership with Cleary too, hitting good balls off him. So yeah, impressed with him.
Impressive for one team and not so much for the other. So we'll move on to the second game on Friday. Storm defeating the Rabbitohs 18-10. Not as long as the last one. So what's your rundown here?
Yep, so 3 tries to Storm, Josh King, Will Warbrick, and Cam Munster. 2 tries to the Rabbitohs, Cody Walker and Campbell Graham. 3 for 3 for Nick Meaney, 1 out of 2 for Trowell Mitt. And that was the scoring breakdown. What do you think of it, Brad?
Yeah, Storm, I was looking at it. It's similar to the Warriors scenario. They actually lost a lot of the stat battle, but won on the scoreboard, which is what counts at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's the main stat.
I thought it was just a solid outing from their pack, and I've got here who your player of the day stood out, and I think the pack helped him a lot too. But yeah, they took the opportunities when they came, which is all you can really ask for. I don't think anyone was expecting a 20, 30 point win by the Storm by any stretch of the imagination. So they took their chances and it worked for them. What was your take on the Storm?
I just thought it was a very typical sort of Storm defensive performance. They held a normally strong and attack Bunnies team to just 10 points. And, I think they actually had quite a few missed tackles, but the way they scrambled, and we had some nice try savers. Harry Grant had a nice try saver. So, that was key in getting the Storm over the line.
Yeah, and your thoughts on the Rabbitohs, because I see Ciala's comments kind of going in with your one.
Yeah, kind of agree with you, Ciala. I think Latrell got going a little bit more in the second half, but pretty much anonymous in the first. And I think as a whole, the Bunnies they're still very patchy to start the year. The Bunnies, they look great in patches. Also, a bit quiet in patches. So, yeah, I'm still expecting them to sort that out at some point, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I just get to copy and paste what I say about the Rabbitohs every week, so I'm doing it again. Rabbitohs just need to show the ball more respect. They had 11 errors in this game. Massive no-no when you're playing a team like the Storm. And until they fix their ball handling, they're not going to do much. They're going to struggle. They'll still win here and there, but in these tough games, not going to happen. My player that stood out was Josh King from the Storm. And thanks, Paul. We will record it. Josh King. I thought he had a great day. He's not one of the guys you put on billboards, which is kind of the type of player that I gravitate towards. But he ran for 133 meters, made 52 tackles, and just did all the hard yards out there. Thought it was a great night for him. But who was your player?
I put Harry Grant. I just thought he was into everything, and sets the Storm attack off. Like I already said, try saving tackle. He does it all. He's so key for them, obviously with Munster as well. But yeah, I thought he was one of the best ones on the ground on Friday night. Yeah,
definitely. Then next game we all got wrong in our picks. Seagulls Knights going to a 32-all draw. So you want to give me your rundown there?
Yeah, I wish I took that at the TAB. That would have set my week up nicely. It was 6 tries apiece. For Manly was Olukuatu, Christian Tuipulotu, Brad Parker, Kalma Tuilangi, Kay Weeks, and Ruben Garrick. for the Knights, Greg Marju, Jack Johns, and 4 for Dom Young. Pretty handy performance. Yeah, 4 from 6 for Jackson Hastings and Lockie Miller. We had 2 goal kickers there. 4 out of 6 for Ruben Garrick.
Yeah, so I've got in here no winner, so I'll just go with home team first. Seagulls, they looked in control, but a few mental lapses left the door open. They've got game breakers in their squad, obviously. So they should have really nailed this game in Golden Point. You go to Golden Point and you've got guys like DCE out there, Tommy Turbo. You're like, this should just be a simple putt for them and get it all, send you on your way home. But I think trying to be optimistic about it, a tough draw for both sides, I think. Tough draw, it will give them some toughness to build their season on. It's very similar to when we talk about the Warriors game later. It's a performance you can go, we've been in the tough and we can do this. But what's your take on the Seagulls?
Obviously, they started well with 2 tries. I just think they'll be disappointed to not have kept the foot on the throat and they let the Knights back into the contest. And for a long period there, the Knights actually probably looking the better team. Obviously, then it came to Golden Point, and more often than not, I expect DCE to come out on top in that situation. But he's come out and said he wasn't feeling too confident early on in Golden Point because of the wind. And obviously, him and the Knights as well missed a few shots at Golden Point. So, not often you see it, but 32 all.
Yeah, and your take on the Knights?
Yeah, I think they'll be happy they're showing more fight, and they can still compete with good sides even without Kalen Ponga. A couple of weeks in a row now they've shown some heart, so hopefully they don't take too much confidence out of it going into this weekend.
No, I've kind of got the same. I said they look tough, but they lacked a bit of polish and made some poor defensive reads. One of them I'm going to talk about with my player that stood out.
I know what you're going to say. How funny was it?
But I think they showed that they can fight in the trenches, and that's probably going to benefit them later in the season. Like I said about the Seagulls, this is going to be a mental toughness builder, which a lot of teams need. My player that stood out was Hamoli Olakuatu. Ran for 198 meters, dangerous with the ball in hand. Was gifted his try from a crazy brain snap from Lockie Miller, who was defending the dead ball line like it was the goal line, and just let him, fall over. But my money would have been on him to run over Lockie anyway. But that's, I guess, showing the lack of experience from Lockie Miller to not know what lines meant what on the field. But interesting. He had a laugh afterwards, saying he laughed at Olakuatu, saying that he dived too early. But it is what it is. Who was your player?
Mate, I thought that was so funny. He's probably just made an excuse. I think he just waved the white flag.
Yeah.
I put Dom Young for 4 tries. I mean, a lot of them were put on the plate for him, but last outing he wasn't the flashiest, so it was a nice bounce back for him.
Yeah. I would have picked him too, but I had a feeling you were going to pick him, so I left him for you and went with the forward. Next game, we'll just let you talk about the Dragons defeating the Dolphins 38-12. You want to do your rundown?
Yep. So Saturday was the Dragons who I tipped, but Brad didn't. It was 38-12, 7 tries to 2. Jacob Little, Blake Lowry, Zach Lomax, Ben Hunt, Mikaeli Ravalawa with 2, and Tyrell Sloan. 2 tries to the Dolphins, Jermaine Asako, and the Hammer, Tabu Ifudo. Seems to always be scoring tries. 5 out of 7 for Zach Lomax, 1 out of 2 for Jermaine Asako. That was the score.
Right, so I have to talk
Go
about
on, Brad. Yeah, you do.
Right, it took me about half a day to write something positive. I've taken all my bias aside. The Dragons were relentless. It was just a solid outing from my least favorite team, and was really hard to point out anything bad about their performance. So well done to the Dragons, and what was a a shitty game to watch for me. What's your take on the Dragons?
Yeah, that must have hurt. Yeah, I thought they bounced back really well from a tough loss to the Sharks last week. And we know the Dolphins are suffering from some injury troubles in some key areas, but the Dragons put them to the sword like you probably should against a team that's quite depleted.
Yeah. And your thoughts on the Dolphins, continuing with that?
So, yeah, we've been waiting to see how the Dolphins would respond when their depth gets tested, and as it proved, they're missing too many players in key positions, and I think it was always going to be a hard day at the office for them. So it proved.
Yeah, I kind of got the same. Their depth was tested early when Milford went off, and they couldn't stop the Dragons when they got a roll on, and with the ball in hand, they lacked direction out there. So the Finns' decline may be on the way. And my player that stood out was Ben Hunt. He's really the only player worth an NRL contract in the Dragons, so I had to go with him.
I went with him too, mate. I think he was pretty clear-cut standout. He got a try assist, ran the show. Typical Ben Hunt performance.
Yeah, definitely. So, let's just not talk about this anymore. Next game on Saturday was the Broncos wiping the floor with the Tigers 46-12. Your rundown.
8 tries to 2. Jordan Ricky had a double. Kurt Capewell, Payne Haas, Selwyn Cobbo, Herbie Farnworth, and Katoni Staggs with a double as well. 2 tries to the Tigers, Isaiah Papali'i and Jake Simpkin. 7 out of 8 for Adam Reynolds. 2 out of 2 for Adam Duehi. Another one that's got away from the Tigers, Brad.
Yeah, I've got the Broncos had to score big against the Tigers. They there was no excuse. They had to, but that's what they did. They did make a lot of errors themselves, which is something they're going to need to watch against top tier sides. But they were always threatening with the ball, and they looked defensively sound. And your take on the Broncos?
Just that they proved far too strong for the Tigers, as obviously we probably would have predicted. It was the usual suspects, the Broncos forwards. Their pack's just such a gun pack. And Reynolds and Reece Walsh obviously doing the damage off the back of that.
Yeah. And your thoughts on the Tigers?
Very, very hard to watch this year. Seems not much has changed. I think they need to change a lot somewhere within the club, like we were saying earlier, probably starting at the top. But yeah, big changes needed to breathe some life back into this club, because not a lot's worked in the past decade plus.
Yeah, I've kind of got the same. The Tigers just continue to disappoint. They've got some good players in there, but no one's playing to their potential. Poor game plan, lack of confidence. You name an issue, the Tigers have it. And my player to stand out was Payne Haas, which I believe you may have picked as well.
Yeah.
But he had, I've got his stats here, he had 144 meters, 6 tackle breaks. That crazy try he scored where he just decided to pick and go for himself and carried half the Tigers team over the try line. And he made 19 tackles. I think it's the second week in a row I've picked him. But yeah, he's head and shoulders above a lot of the other front rowers in the competition.
Yeah, you said it all, mate. What a beast. So I picked him too. Yeah.
All right. And then the game we want to talk about, Warriors defeating the Sharks 32-30. You want to give me the rundown of the scoring there?
You bet. It was 5 tries apiece for the Sharks. Tig Wilton, Ronaldo Mulitalo with 2. Sione Katoa and William Kennedy grabbed tries. 5 tries to the Warriors. Wade Egan, Niokore, Sean Johnson, Ed Cossey, Josh Curran. Difference was goal kicking. 4 out of 5 for Nico Hines, 5 out of 5 for Sean Johnson on conversions. Both had a penalty each, and one of them for Johnson was the game winner. So, how sweet, Brad?
Yeah. So I was telling Paul before we went live, like, if we could have screenshotted the conversation that you, me, and Ruin Hammer were having during the game, it was a very
Animated.
Very animated, and some very upset people in that first 20. But like I said to Paul, at around halftime, we all seemed reasonably optimistic. Going like, it's 26-12. They're still in this if they start the second half strong. And that's what they did. They had a great second half. They took every shot they were given. Best Warriors match I've seen in a long time for so many reasons. And Paul asked, why aren't you invited to the chat group? It's if you actually started watching some rugby league, Paul, you might get into the circle.
Yeah, I think you need to wear a league jersey on the show, and that gets you the invite.
Yeah, it's been from the two people currently not wearing league jerseys on the show. But yeah, your take on the Warriors there.
I thought another bad start seems to be common this year. Obviously,
it's in our DNA.
Yep, Niokore dropping the ball on second tackle. We concede pretty much in the first couple of minutes, and then end up conceding 3 soft tries. But credit where credit's due. We showed resolve. We didn't let that get us down, and we fought back and got the clutch win at the death, and it will go down as one of our more famous victories. And I don't know about you, but I screamed my house down, and I watched the replay a few times already, and just been buzzing all week.
Yeah, and your thoughts on the Sharks?
I thought the Sharks looked very slick early on. One thing that's going to concern them is their defense. It's the same thing that sent them out of the playoffs last year in straight sets, conceding 30-plus points. So to be leading 20-0 at home in conditions that weren't really conducive to scoring a lot of points, they leaked 32. And, I still think they're an amazing side. Much like you, obviously, you tipped them for pretty high honours this year.
I picked them to take the whole thing out.
Yeah, I think they're capable of it, but the defense needs to they need to sort that out.
Yeah, I've got mine was a different angle on it. It said they had this match. They had it in the bag. They had some slick attack and a dominant middle. Their middle forwards were just having a field day. But they either switched off or ran out of juice. I'm fighting myself which one it was. I think I did mention in my review this week that I think the Warriors' smaller forward pack, kind of gets bullied at the start of a match, but they wear down their opposition, and that's why at the back end of matches you see the Warriors are a lot stronger. Bunty Afoa's biggest fan, Anton Posa, actually put out that in every game this year the Warriors haven't conceded a single point in the final 20. So, that's a great stat for them. And, for the Sharks, it could be a game they regret letting slip at the back end of the season. But, time will tell. My player that stood out, I automatically knew who you were going to pick. So, I looked at other players, and I've gone with Chance Nickel-Kluksta. There was moments at the end of the first half and in the second half where it kind of looked like the Warriors were running out of ideas or they were a bit tired, and he just started doing work. He was doing multiple hit-ups on a set and just doing the hard yards. I had to give him credit. He, I know everyone keeps trying to compare him to Reece Walsh and he doesn't have X factor like Walsh, but he's got heart, and I would have heart over X factor any day of the week.
Oh, I agree with you completely. I think he suits us way better. He takes out, we don't get that flaky element. We just get a grafter and someone that goes all day and low on mistakes. But I put Sean Johnson, obviously. He's
flat track bully, mate. He
is. I don't care what you say about him, mate. This year he's playing with a smile on his face. He's leading the boys around. Tamati Martin wasn't there. We didn't really mention that, but
Ciala's mentioned that. A full strength Sharks team against a Warriors team missing Barnett, TMM, Harris, Dillon. It's not there either. There's a lot of players. No one's talking about the fact that the Warriors have a lot of players out.
100%. But Sean Johnson stepped up. A couple of try assists to Niokore and Curran, leading the boys around. He had one mistake with a missing touch from a penalty.
That wasn't a mistake. They were robbed. If you watch the replay, you see Mulatalo had his foot on the line before he tapped it back. So it should have been the Warriors feed.
Mate, I've seen a zoomed in version of that. There's about an inch of grass in between the line.
You're lying, mate. You're lying.
That's not what I don't want to bag SJ. He missed.
Yeah.
That's probably the only blight on his performance. Other than that, obviously kicked the clutch goal. Gave a great interview after the game. I'm just stoked for him, man. I'm so stoked for him after a hard couple of years.
Yeah. And Mikey said he's starting to rate Pompey. Yeah, it's getting hard to argue against Pompey. I've been a staunch, I don't want Pompey in my team Warriors fan. And at the moment, as much as I don't want to say it, I don't see a reason why you would get rid of him. And Ciala's mentioned about Egan's footy IQ. He's amazing. He's been great this year. Prolific try scorer that we never knew he was. 4 games, 4 tries. But he just knows what to do with this team, which is fantastic. Couldn't be prouder as a Warriors fan.
That's coming from a place a couple of years ago with so many Warriors fans were questioning his spot in the team too, and were saying we needed to sign a top flight hooker to be competitive, but he's come on so well. It's amazing how far he's come.
Yeah, so we go to the last game. Probably just if the Warriors hadn't did what they did, this probably would have been match of the round for me. But the Bulldogs getting the Golden Point win over the Cowboys 15-14. You want to give us your little rundown?
Yep. So it was 3 tries to 2 for the Dogs. Jacob Preston grabbing a double. He can sniff out a try. And the Fox obviously knows how to sniff out a try. He got the clutch game-tying try in the last minute. 2 tries to the Cowboys, Tom Dearden and Tom Chester. The Toms there. 1 out of 3 for Matt Burton, 2 out of 2 for Val Holmes, and the field goal from Matty Burton in extra time.
Yeah. So I've got here with the Bulldogs. They showed grit in this match. Needed some Adokar magic in the final minute to force Golden Point before Burton had a solid field goal. I think you kind of knew he was going to do something special after he missed that sideline conversion to win the game in regular time. If they consistently battle, like I'm going to call it battle, if they battle like this, then they're going to cause teams headaches. This is kind of what we talk. They didn't have Viliami Kikau and those guys as well. So, great performance from them in my opinion. But what was your take on the Doggies?
Mikey Mitchell Reynolds barking at the ref. How good was it to see Joshy Reynolds back being a grub? It was so good. I thought it was a classic game to cap off a cracker weekend. Much like the Warriors, I think this game showed the Dogs are made of tougher stuff this year and were clutch, getting the win, scoring a try at the death and snatching in Golden Point with obviously Matt Burton's field goal, which was a great field goal. But the play before that too with chip and chase, having the guts to do a chip and chase in Golden Point. I thought it was a fantastic game and really good win by the Dogs who, like we were saying earlier, they're battling injury. So, really, really good win.
And your thoughts on the Cowboys?
I just think, obviously, they're missing Drinkwater. I think they're really missing him. Tom Chester's doing a decent enough job, but he means a lot. Drinkwater means a lot to the Cowboys. I don't think all is lost. They started poorly in last year. I think they might have dropped 4 or 5 games that started last year as well, but look where they ended up. So all is not lost, but they want to change their fortune sooner rather than later.
I've got the Cowboys were close, but no cigar here. A few glimpses of how good they can be, but they're just missing Drinkwater's spark. And I believe they will bounce back before time's done. But my player that stood out was Jacob Preston. He's still a relative no-name, but he had a great game here. I was going to mention it in the news, but the Bulldogs are looking at trying to extend him as well. So they're very happy with what he's done. But who was your player?
Do you have him on your fantasy team?
No.
think he's value there. Burden. Yeah, obviously. I think, he came up clutch. He just looks like he's got time on his hands. He's one of those guys. He had his hands in most things. The chip and chase I thought was gutsy too, and extra time, the fantastic field goal. I rate him really highly. I thought he was instrumental there, getting them home.
Yeah, and like Mike said, Townsend's a one-man band. That's kind of how it feels at the moment. Once he's out there with Drinkwater, they seem to do some good things together. It seems to take some pressure off Dearden as well when you've got Drinky out there. So I do expect him to bounce back. But that was round 5. So, Paul, if you want to be able to bring up the ladder for us, I believe. Yep.
Look at that.
So I'll let you read off the top 8, and then I'll take over from 9 if you like, Richie.
Yeah, sure. Broncos 1, Warriors 2, Roosters 3, Manly in 4th with 7 points now with the draw. So that makes things interesting. With 4 and against, won't really matter for them. Penrith 5th, Melbourne 6th, Dolphins 7th, Bulldogs 8th. But the key one there is number 2. Look at number 2 there.
Exactly.
Take a mental screenshot of that.
Look, you need to take a note here out of the your 12 days of Christmas. When you get to 5 goals, it's like when you get to Warriors 2, and then move on. You see it? You're not.
I think I'll do that next week.
Yeah. And then we got 9th. We've got the Titans. 10th. We've got the Dragons. Knights are at 11th. Sharks at 12th. Rabbitohs 13th. Cowboys 14th. Eels 15th. Then the Raiders 16th and the Tigers 17th, yet to score a win. Crazy ladder. It's still, I keep saying it every bloody week. It's not a ladder I predicted.
But look at the Warriors in second, though.
Oh, yeah.
There you go,
Bjorn. I'm wrapped with that. And to think that you'd have the Sharks, the Rabbits, the Cowboys, and the Eels all sitting in that bottom half. It's crazy. Like, if you told me that the Broncos were in the 8 after 5 weeks, I wouldn't be surprised. But, to see the Warriors, the Dogs, and the Dolphins are the ones that surprised me from before the season started in my predictions. So, thoroughly wrapped with that ladder, and long may it continue. If you want to bring up the tips, something I'm not that wrapped up with, well, that's the wrong one, Paul. There we go.
Oh, how good is that? Look at that.
So Richie had a great week. He went 6 from 8. Remember, one of those games was the draw that we all got wrong. So if Manly had won that game, Richard would have been 7 from 8. Simon and myself both 3 out of 8. Shocking weeks for us, but Simon had that much of a lead on us. It didn't really matter at the end of the day. Yeah. He's still leading 23 out of 40. Richard's gone to second place with 21 out of 40, and then I'm 2 behind with 19 out of 40 and dead last.
So if you flipped a coin, you'd be doing better than Brad, basically at the moment. Richie is slightly better than flipping a coin.
I just got over 50%.
Yep. Thanks, Paul. Love your input. So that's it. So we go to questions. Do we have any questions from anyone? Paul, while I write down Simon's picks?
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to start off with my question, actually, and it's going to be around the table. I think there are 2 teams on this year's form that perhaps are kind of out of position compared to how they're playing. Who do you reckon who do you reckon the teams that are out of position compared to how they're playing, rather than necessarily their reputations?
I don't know.
When you look at the Sharks, they've got a points difference of plus 21, right? Yeah. If you did it on points difference, they'd be 4th in the table, and they're down in 12th. So I mean, the Sharks really been unlucky at the wrong end of a couple of scores there.
And then the other one, the Eels.
And I was going to, well, there are the Eels. Where the Eels? The Eels, no, minus 19. I was going to go the Roosters, only plus 8 sure they're third, but +8 and to be third in the table, they've just been sneaking wins.
Well, they
could easily could have gone the other way.
They were gifted a bye, which helps them score less points. Yeah.
So I think the Roosters perhaps a little bit lucky to be as high as they are, and I think the Sharks are really unlucky to be kind of where they are at the moment. Compared to sort of scores.
They need to stop losing to the Warriors then.
Yeah, they just got to stop playing the Warriors. But were there any other questions from anyone else there?
A couple from the chat. Saley, what's the Warriors' longest winning streak? I mean, boy, he really is putting the mockers on this season. But,
yeah, I think it's 8, and I think Mark answered it in the comments.
Yeah,
he
did.
Yeah,
I thought it would be worth speaking it as well for our podcast listeners.
Set to be beaten this year.
Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it, Brad.
We've had our loss. We've had it.
And also, who do you reckon is the first coach to be sacked this year?
No, you weren't here for my prediction. It hasn't changed. It's that useless Dragons coach.
Richie?
I said the same as Brad in the predictions, but yeah,
I'm not
too sure.
I don't see the Tigers doing it. I don't see the Tigers kicking cheats.
How can the Tigers get rid of a coach when he's supposed to be mentoring the next guys who arrive in 2 years' time? That's a real weird setup.
And the Raiders won't get rid of Ricky. Brad Arthurs has already re-signed with the Eels. Peyton isn't going to get sacked. They're not going to sack at the Rabbits. Sharks ain't going to fire anyone. O'Brien at the Knights could be an option.
Yeah, it depends how the Knights
and then
go.
The next one from that is Hook, who I picked. So I'm going with Hook.
They've told him he needs to reapply, doesn't he? So I don't know if they're going to.
Yeah, they won't sack. Yeah, of course.
They won't sack him straight away. He'll just be made to reapply and probably not get it.
Yeah, which he's basically said he's not going to go.
Yeah,
he's not going to reapply if they're going to ask him to do that. So, yeah, it's really tough. So, yeah, Hook's probably off the question too. I say Wayne Bennett. Let's say Wayne Bennett. They're gonna lose their crap in the Dolphins because they've lost a few games now. But yeah, I honestly don't know. It could like Glenn said, could be no one gets sacked. Yeah.
Wow. When we think was it last season we had like 3 or 4?
Yeah, in like a week.
It just takes one and then it all just starts to flow.
Yeah.
What's up with Bunty, boys?
I don't know.
Didn't he go? He only played 19 minutes on the weekend, didn't he? I know.
That's all he's doing at the moment. They put him out there in the first 20, which seems to be the worst part of the Warriors game. And then he gets hooked and they get better. Not saying that it's his fault, but it just seems to be what they're doing. I think it was the This Warriors Life podcast. I think one of them pulled a thought or an idea of maybe due to him, he might not have the biggest motor. So they kind of use him in the start to kind of take some punishment and batter the opposition. And then they pull on the Bald twins to kind of wreak havoc. But before Barnett got hurt, he was coming off the bench. So that kind of negates that thought process. So I really don't know. It's I don't agree with it. I think he should be able to do some stuff, but do a bit more. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's working. I don't know. Props should get more minutes all the time anyway. But I think they're getting more out of Tom Ali in the time he gets instead. So to be honest, when people come back, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Bunty misses the 17 when you got Barnett and Tohu and everyone back.
You may well do.
But
right, that's it from the chat, guys.
All right. So your question for me, Richie.
My question for you was with Watene Zelezniak due back from injury and eventually when Luke Metcalf gets there as well, what would be your approach to bringing them into the team, which is already established in winning form so far? Yeah,
well, Luke Metcalf, love the kid, but he ain't coming into this team anytime soon. Who would you kick out for him? In regards to Dallin, I want to see Dallin play a little bit of New South Wales Cup first, just due to the fact that he hasn't really had a chance to do any game time at all. Because you would bring Dallin in to replace Kossi normally, but Kossi I think is doing a fine job out there. So it's not as soon as Dallin's ready to go, you just swap them. If Dallin looks the goods coming back from injury, then maybe you do the switch. But yeah, Luke Metcalf, everyone was saying Metcalf was going to replace Sean. You're not going to get rid of Sean. Tamari Martin's combining well with Sean, so you're not dropping him. Chance is playing well. You're not going to drop him. And you've already got Dylan Walker and Jazz on the bench. So you're not going to, get rid of one of them to put Luke in. So where does Luke go? I don't see it. His time will come. But, I just don't see any reason to shuffle the deck when they're going well.
No, I agree completely. I find it hard to change this team that's already playing so well. But as we've seen in the NRL, injuries happen. So I think I'm with you on DWZ, maybe getting some time in reserve grade first, get some match fitness, and obviously Metcalf as well. And when injuries come, that'll present them their opportunity. Yeah,
and I think it'll be like what Jazz did, one game in reserve grade and then he was back. I don't expect thing. And I saw Mikey said Luke to the Dolphins. Luke ain't going nowhere. I think what Andrew Webster and the club is building, I don't think you're going to get a lot of players throw their toys and want to leave. With all the stuff going on with Josh Curran at the moment, where he's not really getting game time, we've heard no rumors of him trying to get out of a contract to go elsewhere or anything like that. Where if this kind of situation happened last year, it's the first thing we would have heard. I think Luke. And the interviews I've listened to with Luke, he's kind of a bit like Tane. He has a bigger picture approach to it all. He wants to play first grade, but he knows, you got to earn your spot. And he seems happy and comfortable to do that. So, he's going to be a big part of the Warriors' plans, just not right now. For the right reasons, though, at least.
Yeah.
We kind of both answered that, right?
Yeah,
so, my question, it's similar to Paul's one a little bit, but after 5 rounds, which team surprised you the most and which teams disappointed you the most?
So after 5 rounds, pleasantly, the Warriors have surprised me the most. For good reasons, obviously. We're sitting second. We've lost one game to one of the top teams, which in all reality, we could have and probably should have won that game. And we're just playing a brand of footy that just got all the fan base buzzing. So the Warriors have surprised me. And who am I most disappointed in? There's a couple. Obviously, the Eels, from where they were last year, they're down in the bottom 4 there. So I could say them. Also, Souths, I tipped Souths to be top 4. There's a lot of water to go under the bridge, obviously, but I just don't think they're clicking yet as I'd expected them to. So, pick your poison, one of those two.
Yeah, kind of the same. Warriors, same reason, surprised me for good reasons, and I'm stuck between the Eels and the Rabbits for the one that's disappointed me. Tigers, you could say, but Tigers, I kind of expected them to do better than last year, but still be like a bottom 3 team. So,
I didn't say them because they're the obvious choice, and we're very much used to this output from them.
And I could say the Dragons disappointed me too because I expected them to be the bottom of the ladder, and they're not.
I think, look, there has to be an honourable mention for the Dolphins. Sure, the wheels have fallen off for the past 2 weeks, but look, as for an expansion team to win their opening 3 games, they've definitely surprised and impressed everybody, I think.
It's just like SeaWorld though, Paul. The first couple of days you got the Dolphins in that tank, they're very happy, and then after a while they just get depressed, and they're sitting at the bottom of the tank not wanting to do anything. That's what we got.
Jacko, the Cowboys disappointing. They're the same side as 2022.
Yeah, they're another one.
Yeah, there with that one as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we look at the Eels though. Their only win was a 1-point win in Golden Point. I mean,
but it was against the Panthers.
Yeah, that's so. Even that one, they could very easily have lost. Now, to be fair, they also lost to the Storm and Golden Point. And all the other games.
There's a lot of games they could have easily have won it or lost it. So it's on a knife edge.
They've had a nightmare draw playing pretty much all the top teams, all coming off buys and fresh. So, but hey,
they got Storm, Sharks, Sea Eagles, Panthers, Roosters. Has been their start. So
tough start.
And I saw Jacko said Dragons are living, and Brad said constantly they're fighting a battle with Eden Park in my head. Two things I hate the most on the planet. And Simon said the Storm have been quite disappointing. Yeah, I think we're going to see a change in that this week with Jerome Hughes back and all that. But the Storm aren't the Storm they used to be, but they're still dangerous in my opinion. But hopefully the Storm of old stays away for a couple more weeks.
Yeah, Storm Roosters this weekend, eh? That'll be it. That could be a cracker.
Yeah. So speaking of that, round 6, we may as well do our Warriors Knights preview, I should say. I'm happy that I sent you the proper picture, Paul, because my picture I'm looking at still has the Sharks name on it. I changed everything else though. So I'll let you run down the 17 for the Warriors, Richie.
Yep, you bet. So CNK at fullback, Ed Kossi and Marcelo Montoya on the wings, Viliami Vailea and Adam Pompey in the centres. Tamari Martin returns at 6, Sean Johnson at 7, Adam Fanua-Blake, Wade Egan, Bunty R4 front row, Jackson Ford, Bailey Sirenen comes in for Marata Niokore, and Tohu Harris is the back row. Interchange of Dylan Walker, Josh Curran, Jazz Tevanga, and Tom Ale.
Nice. And then for the Knights, we've got Lachlan Miller at fullback, Dom Young and Greg Marju on the wings, Dane Gagai and Bradman Best in the centres, Phoenix Crossland and Jackson Hastings in the halves, Daniel Safiti, Jaden Brayley and Leo Thompson front row, Tyson Frizzell, Lachlan Fitzgibbon and Jack Johns in the back three. Then we've got Kurt Mann, Jack Hetherington, Matt Croker and Brodie Jones on the interchange. And
what did Paul Daniel Safiti do? And he's not in bold. Everyone else has been bolded, and you put him in normal text, hiding it. You don't. What's this theory? Is this the wrong way or something? Oh dear.
I don't like him. I don't know. It just happens sometimes on my design sport. I don't know what to say, but so Simon and myself have both picked the Warriors in this game. I think I always was going to pick the Warriors, but I think a couple of players out for the Knights is going to help them a bit. The confidence in beating them already, the confidence coming from the game against the Sharks. But as Jacko's got there, there's a caveat to that, which is this is a banana skin game for the Warriors. We expect a good win. The Warriors the players themselves will be confident. But Knights are hard to beat in Newcastle. So it's not going to be like a cakewalk by any stretch of the imagination. But before the season started, my preview, I said in the first 10 rounds, the Warriors would be 2-8 and the 2 wins would be against the Knights. So I have to pick them. But I think it's going to be a great game. There's some confidence there. Andrew Webster seems to be the guy that knows how to get the players focused again. So they were all amped after that historical win. He straight away the next day, he's like, we've got to celebrate this, but we've got a job to do. Knights are next. I think it's going to be tight. It's going to be tight, but I've got the Warriors here.
Yeah, I don't expect a good win. I hope for any kind of win, no matter what way it comes. But it's nice to see the. I tipped the Warriors last week against the Cowboys. Don't want to toot my own horn too much, but nice to see the boys jumping on and tipping them with me this week.
Yeah, and Ciala said that the punters still think we're not a top 8 side. Yeah, that's going to happen. Let them keep taking the the Warriors for granted. I think it's going to be good for us. I think to fly under the radar as much as we can.
Yeah,
and I don't think the punters might be, but I don't think any of the teams that they face will be taking them for granted. They know that the Warriors are a hard team, especially with how they perform in that final 20 now.
Yeah.
What I heard from that though, Richie, was you're picking the Knights.
No.
Okay. I'll change that. And you're here now, Paul, to be Simon, right?
Hey, Simon.
Yes.
So we got fixtures. So first game up tomorrow night, Storm Roosters. I've gone with the Storm. Richie, who have you gone with?
Yeah, I've gone with Storm in Melbourne.
And Simon?
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be a good one, but
yeah.
Look, the Roosters have been going well, but the Storm turning things around after a bit of a slow start. So, Storm at home.
So that we all picked the Storm. Next game, we got Bulldogs, Rabbitohs. I've gone with the Rabbitohs. I think, the Bulldogs, they're kind of walking wounded. Rabbitohs have something to prove. So I've gone with the Rabbits.
Yeah. Rabbits, too many injuries for the Dogs.
All right. I'm not happy that you're picking the same as me this week. Maybe I am.
Yeah, and also Rabbits, but even though the Bulldogs are in the top 8, still, it's very congested in that mid-table. We're going to Rabbits. Yeah.
All right. So we're all picking the same again. This is going to do great for my climb off last place. Next game, Cowboys Dolphins. I've gone with Cowboys. I was foolish picking the Dolphins last week against the worst team in the comp, but I think the fact you add yet another player to the injury stocks there, the Cowboys have got Drinkwater back. Have to go with the Cowboys.
Yes, Cowboys.
Yeah, Cowboys in 14th versus Dolphins in 7th, and we're all going Cowboys. Yeah, look, the Dolphins had that great start, but the wheels have come off.
Yeah, so we picked all the same. We're 3 from 3 so far. Next up, Panthers Seagulls. I've gone with Panthers. We know I love my Seagulls, but Panthers just looked too scary last week, and I think that's going to flow on.
Yeah, tough ask for Manly. I had to go Panthers too.
Yep, can't even nail a golden point. Have to go Panthers.
Yeah, so 4 from 4, guys. We're all the same. Broncos Raiders. Going with Broncos. I'm sorry, Simon. Raiders. They're not looking great right now, and the Broncos. They're undefeated for a reason right now. So I'll go on Broncos.
And that reason is because they just won't let them leave Queensland. Look at that, another home game.
Yeah,
it's going to be 5 out of 6 home games now. Thanks to the NRL.
What another way to the Dolphins? How dare you?
That's not an away game. Anyways, I went Broncos.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go. I might have to feel a bit dirty, but going Broncos.
Yeah, so picked all the same again. Jesus. Titans, Dragons.
That's a good game.
Yeah, Titans, easy win. Dragons are rubbish. Titans have got this. I'm buying the jersey tomorrow and I'm wearing it with pride. What about you, Richie?
Well, I wanted to pick the Dragons to spite you, Brad, but
you just can't?
I'll go with Titans because you picked them. So let's keep you firmly in last place.
I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be a close one. Now, it might not be the best quality game.
Yeah,
I think it'll be a tight game, but I'm still going Titans at home. Home advantage there to swing this one.
Yeah, I think I said to you before we went live, Paul, that I think it's both of these teams aren't the best defensively, so they try to outscore each other. So it should be an exciting game on that aspect. Next game was Knights Warriors. Me and Richie picked the Warriors. Simon, who did you pick?
Yep, you're going to go with the Warriors. Look, you say second in the table. Take it. The Warriors have got to be the winners. Yep.
Yeah, and then the last game, which I assume we're going to pick every game of the round all the same. But Tigers Eels, I've gone with the Eels because they're playing the Tigers. Although last year we had that shocking game between these two teams.
Yes, yeah.
But no. I've gone with Eels.
Eels.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Tigers minus 64 points. I mean, they're losing by over 10 points a game. You can't pick the Tigers, but boy, oh boy, the Eels, 15th place. only one win for themselves. This is perhaps not one to stay up for. But I think it's 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Maybe get out and get some nice sunshine if you can. Eels.
And I think it's the first time in the history of the standoff that we've all picked the exact same picks in every game.
Would be a first.
Yeah, so first, second, third is still going to be the same next week. Spoilers.
But on that kind of note, I mean, and how predictable this week is up is that one of the things I've been doing on the Driving More show now is doing a multi bet with the Tier B for the kind of obvious games to see how many good games there are this week. So we've got 8 games, sorry, for the weekend, and I reckon there are 5 games that are effectively we know the results already, and hence I put a multi on the Dogs versus the Rabbitohs, the Cowboys versus Dolphins, Panthers Eagles, Broncos Raiders, Tigers Eels. All those have got $1.33 is the biggest, is the smallest favourite. So I think there's three decent games this weekend, or 3 close games is what I'm expecting this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. And before Jacko goes, because we're doing Super League soon, I saw a good comment from Mark Roberts about the Warriors bench, the 1-2-3 punch of there we go. Yeah, the 1-2-3 punch of the bench of Walker, Tavanga, and Curran. It's incredible bench. And I think Ciala mentioned that as well, saying it was a bench like that and the impact they can have. That's where they're going to be able to get the Knights. So that's going to be interesting to see, and hopefully we get to talk about it. That's all we really had for that.
And we'll bring up Jacko's thing about gamble responsibly equals don't gamble. He says, look, it's $2, folks. It's done to show how many competitive or each game's have each round. It's not supposed to be out there for you guys to go and put your big money on.
Yeah, I put money on the Warriors to beat the Sharks last week, so I was happy. But yeah, don't do it. And cheers for joining us again, Jacko, as we go into Super League. So I was really bad this week. I was still celebrating the Warriors win, so I didn't do a lot of research into the Super League news. All I've got is that next week in round 8, it's Rivals round, the Super League's kind of version of Magic round. But there weren't too many surprises in the round 7 results. We had Wigan defeating Lee 34-6, St. Helens defeating Wakefield 38-0. Hull KR defeated Leeds 20-12. Warrington defeated LFC 34-6. Catalans defeated Castleford 22-18. And then Uddersfield defeated Salford 26-16. Any surprises there for you, Richie? It kind of seemed like all the teams that should win did.
Yeah, pretty much true to form, isn't it? Yeah, nothing really, no real great surprises.
Yeah, and then Rivals round next week, or this week, I should say. We've got Castleford versus Wakefield, Hull FC versus Hull KR, Wigan versus St. Helens, Lee versus Salford, Catalans versus Warrington, and Leeds versus Uddersfield. So a couple of good games in there. Catalans, Warrington, they're both up the top of the ladder, and Wigan, St. Helens are as well. So
that's a cracker.
Should be really good. But anything else you wanted to add before we go?
Thanks everybody for the great chat. Everybody keep smiling. Don't forget we're second place, and let's keep lapping this up week by week while it lasts.
Yeah, it's nice having a show with a smile instead of the depressed looks we've had for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for joining us again on the Standoff with Brad and Richie. For your weekly update on Rugby League next week, tune into our show at 8 p.m.
Actually, one little thing I was going to throw in here, because your pronunciations is something that I think we do need to clean up on here. So just going to bring you a northern lass who's going to tell you how to say Uddersfield.
I keep saying it Uddersfield. I do it right. You're going to bring her on?
Oh, sorry, I didn't put it. I didn't bring her on. We'll do this one again.
Now that sounds. Don't say Huddersfield. Oh, Huddersfield. It's Huddersfield.
Huddersfield. Yeah, I'm trying, Paul. If there's one country out there that butchers the English language, it's England. So I'm trying. And
I'm from York. My mum's from that area, part of the world, so it's always fun.
I try. It's not the first word I don't get right on the show, and it won't be the last. And Simon said, Warrington and Catalans hate each other. Yeah, they do. It's a real big rivalry, and West Bradford on the ladder. I don't even remember what division they're in anymore. I don't remember if they're second or third. That's a Simon question. I think Bradford might still be in second division. I'm not sure.
They are, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they're second division. Mike said drop the H. Okay, I'll work on it. I'm practicing this weekend on getting my Huddersfield right. So thank you all once again for trying to derail me as I'm trying to get off the show. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. Thank you for joining me again, Richie. Cheers for all your work in the background, Paul. And good night, everybody.